Eagles win the Super Bowl.
Chiefs win. Cry, Eagles, cry.
I'm very excited to be back for another week. You know, every day I got the Three Stooges in the studio with me is a good fucking day. You know what I mean? So let's make sure he gets that bag.
Frauds! Frauds! Woo!
Justin's way ahead in picks. That's all that you need to fucking know.
Show's over.
Show's over. We're going home. I would like to welcome you back to another page of the Playbook Sports Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 32 NFL Offseasons in 32 days. Yesterday, day number 20, we talked about your Miami Dolphins. Today, day number 21, we are going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota, maybe one of the quietest 13-win seasons of all time because they get to the playoffs and I don't think anybody really expected anything of them. And, I mean, everyone and their mother probably knew that record was a sham. Especially when you consider their minuscule point differential, which was nearly zero getting in at 13-4, and couple that with an unsustainable record in one-score games. I want to say they broke the record for most one-score wins in a season. I chalk that up to a bit of luck, honestly. However, they did still win the division by 4 games, which is impressive in and of itself. And I would say that this offseason, the Vikings improved their offense at least a little bit, which was already the strength of their team. Unfortunately for them, the part of their team that struggled the most last year, the defense, has not improved much following a little loss of talent this offseason. So let's talk about it. Key additions. I do like there's a theme here. A lot of additions to replace losses. They did a good job of filling holes that they developed. Key additions. I really like the addition of Byron Murphy Jr. Wow, I can't talk apparently. Byron Murphy Jr. I think it was a great addition as he's going to bring both experience and talent to a cornerback room that was honestly picked on all of last season. You'll see when I get to the defensive statistics. Young, very talented corner. I do really like that addition. And honestly, I was shocked by just how cheaply the Minnesota Vikings were able to get Marcus Davenport. 1 year, $13 million. That's a fantastic contract for a 26-year-old edge rusher who also is 1 year removed from a 9-sack campaign, and I think that's a great value, especially because he probably is coming in on a prove-it deal in his mind. You know, I got 1 year to do my thing. I think that's a great pickup. Very good addition, and I like these additions on the defense because you're giving new defensive coordinator Brian Flores good pieces to play with. I am not a big Flores guy for personal reasons. Obviously, as head coach of the Dolphins didn't work out. But I like the hiring of him as a defensive coordinator. He knows defense very, very well. He gets the most out of whatever talent he has at his disposal. Fortunately for the Vikings, Brian Flores will not be working on the offensive side of the ball, which is something he can't do. He will be working defensively, which he has proven to be very good at. Key losses. Losing Dalvin Tomlinson up the middle hurts, as he's a huge defensive tackle that's really, really good against the run. But losses on the defense, when you think about it, their defense was so bad last year, just so bad, that losses on the defensive side, it's like, okay, that's fine. We really can't get a whole lot worse. But I think losing Dalvin Tomlinson hurts for sure. And then they also let Patrick Peterson walk, who is getting up there in age, so I don't think that move is going to hurt him a ton. Plus, they brought in Byron Murphy, so I think that they just did a one-for-one kind of swap there. The move that they made, though, this offseason that I really have had trouble kind of putting my mind around was trading away Zadarius Smith to the Cleveland Browns. He had 10 sacks last season, which was a half a sack off the lead for their team, right behind Danielle Hunter. And the Vikings gave him up for 2 fifth-round picks, and they also gave up a 6th and a 7th-round pick. So maybe those two are equivalent to 1/5. So all you got back for him is a 5th-rounder. He's only 30 years old. They signed him to a decent little extension. You know, it was a 3-year, $42 million deal, so he was making $14 million a year. I understand wanting to get younger, but as the second best pass rusher, your only argument is you got rid of him to clear salary. But you only clear $1 million of salary for this upcoming season, and you get worse in the pass rushing department. While I do like the addition of Marcus Davenport, he's never had 10 sacks in a season. Zadarius Smith is coming off of a 10-sack campaign. He's a very, very good edge rusher, and they just didn't get much value for him. And if your team that believes yourself to be competitive right now, which we'll get into a little bit later, you don't do that. That's not a move from a team that expects to win this season. I don't understand it. Bit of a head scratcher for me, but overall, they did a really good job, I think, of replacing their key losses with some good additions. Let's talk NFL draft. Personally, Jordan Addison was one of my favorite receivers in this class. I love watching his routes. His route tree is very, very advanced for a rookie coming into the NFL. He is the crispest route runner in the draft cycle. He won the Biletnikoff Award in 2021, which is best wide receiver in college football. And that was with Kenny Pickett throwing him passes. And Kenny Pickett, depending on who I don't think Kenny Pickett's very good personally. So even with Kenny Pickett throwing him the ball, he was considered the best receiver in college football. And I don't really understand them going offense with their first pick, but at the same time, I get it. Make his strength even stronger instead of going defensive. Maybe they didn't like the value that was there on the defensive side of the ball, and they're like, well, Jordan Addison fell right into our hands. We might as well just go ahead and take him. I will say at least the Vikings know who they are. They are going to score. They're going to just try and outscore everybody, which, obviously that's the name of the game, but they know they're not going to stop anybody, so they're like, okay, well, we can't rebuild this defense in one offseason. Let's just hammer the offense, and maybe we'll be able to score 40 and only give up 36 a game. I don't know. No second-round pick for the Vikings thanks to the T.J. Hockenson trade, which I still like a lot. T.J. Hockenson is a very, very talented tight end and was a big improvement to their room, so I'm good with that. And then in the third round, they took cornerback Mekhi Blackman. I felt like that was a reach personally. I had him more of like a mid-day 3 pick, like a round 5-6 kind of guy. He's a redshirt senior. He's only 5'11", already 24 years old. I just didn't love that pick. I felt like there was better talent available to them. And at that point, maybe you don't go for the corner, you go for somewhere else on the defensive side of the ball. That's just me. I do like their addition of Jay Ward with the 32nd pick of the 4th round. LSU safeties, man, they typically come out pretty pro-ready, and he is known for being a leader. I think he'll be a leader on that defense in short order, especially since they're going so young. He is very pro-ready, good size for the position, plays fast, plays fearlessly. He needs to put on some weight, a little bit thin to be throwing himself into tackles the way he does, but he'll put on weight once NFL trainers get a hold of him. I really do like that pick a lot. And then another pick I wanted to talk about of theirs was Jaron Hall in the 5th round. I didn't understand this one either, honestly. Already 25 years old, he was a 2-year starter at a small school of BYU that put up decent numbers, but in the 5th round, you may as well get another defender because that's what you need way more than you need as a 25-year-old quarterback who's not going to see the field, guys. He's just not going to play for them. And I want to say they took Kellen Mond within the last year or two in a draft, so seems like a throwaway pick to me. I just don't see any way he does anything for them. But outside of that, I mean, those are really the 4 picks I wanted to touch on in the draft. For this draft class, Jordan Addison really brings up the grade, personally. I am, like I said, huge Jordan Addison guy, but even with him in this class, I still don't think it's that great. It's solid, and with Jordan Addison being factored in, I give them a C+ for their draft. Overall, this offseason, I think the Vikings had a pretty clear plan, which was continue to support and improve the offense, and we may as well just get younger on defense since we can't get a whole lot worse. Offensively, like I said, love the addition of Jordan Addison, and he's just going to feast when Jordan Jefferson is getting all of the attention. The problem for me, though, this offseason is that the Vikings were 30th in points allowed last season, 31st in yards allowed. That is terrible. They were just getting cooked by everybody, and they didn't do a whole lot to improve upon that situation. They got younger, great, but they lost Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, Patrick Peterson. They brought in Byron Murphy, and they brought in Marcus Davenport. So it's like, okay, you just kind of swap these guys out. You didn't improve the defense. I do like the additions, and as much as I may dislike this man, Flores understands defenses. At the end of the day, he knows what he's doing defensively, so hopefully for them, he can get the most out of them. But I think it's going to take some time for him to implement his defense and to get his guys in there. So this season, I don't think their defense is going to be any better, and they have a tough run of schedule, honestly. The division got better this offseason. So couple that with a relatively underwhelming draft, I give their offseason a flat C. Nothing more, nothing less. And then what kind of a team are the Vikings going to be this year? What should we expect from them? Sadly, and I know probably many people didn't think this, but sadly, I think last year was their Super Bowl window. That was it. I think that was their best chance the way this team is constructed. As lucky as they were last year in these one-score games, as unsustainably good as they were in games that were super tight, that seemed like the year to do it. And in a weaker NFC, it felt like the time, and they got bounced by Danny Dimes and the New York Giants in the first round. It's going to be hard to duplicate just how good their offense was last year, and their defense is no better. I think they'll be in a lot of games because their offense will keep them there. The problem is that Detroit got better this offseason. Chicago got better this offseason. And Green Bay is still going to be solid, man. People think that they're going to fall apart because Aaron Rodgers left. I think Jordan Love just might step in and be pretty solid this year. And I'm sure that the Vikings think that they're in it to compete this year. So as far as what they think, I'm sure they think we're ready to go. Unfortunately, I just don't see any way that they're able to compete with the top 4 or 5 teams of the NFC and maybe win 10 games this year. But they're not more than a few years away from having to kind of destruct this and re-figure out what they're going to do at multiple key positions. So that's what I've got for you guys on the Minnesota Vikings offseason. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Shout out SeatGeek for the code. Use our code PlayBookSports, all capital letters, on SeatGeek.com for $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Shout out Goldfine and Bulls for sponsoring today's video. And thanks for stopping in, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow for day number 22.